All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, another deep dive.
Today, we're looking at some pretty intense stuff.
Yeah.
We are going global. We are diving into the world of geopolitics.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and in particular, a speech that was given at the UN recently
Yeah,
that has been making some waves.
absolutely.
We have some notes here, articles, all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
And yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating, I think it's really important to get into this.
Absolutely it is.
So let's set the scene a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, we are at the UN General Assembly.
The big one.
Yeah, the big one. Everybody's there.
With
Um,
people, big players.
yeah, and it's a tense atmosphere, you know?
Yeah.
The world is kind of a powder keg right now.
Yeah, you can cut the tension with a knife, I bet.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then up steps the UK Foreign Secretary, David Lammy.
Okay.
And he's there to talk about Russia's actions in Ukraine.
Right.
But he doesn't just call it a war or an invasion or anything like that.
Yeah.
He uses a very specific phrase to describe Russia.
Oh, really? What's that?
He calls them a mafia state.
Wow. Okay, that's a strong statement.
Yeah, it's not pulling any punches, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
And, you know, it really sets the tone for this entire speech.
So what's the thinking there? What's he trying to get at?
Well, I think by using that phrase mafia state, he's trying to connect what Russia is doing in Ukraine to a much bigger issue.
Okay.
Yeah, he's saying that this isn't just about territory or even just about this one conflict.
Right.
He's saying that Russia is trying to fundamentally change the way the world works.
Really?
Yeah, they're trying to undermine the entire system of international law and order that the UN represents.
So like going back to the law of the jungle.
Yeah, exactly. You know, might makes right and all that.
So basically he's saying that Russia is chucking the UN Charter right out the window.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting because we were talking earlier about the UN Charter and its history.
We were.
And Lammy actually brings it up in his speech.
Right.
Yeah, he talks about how Russia is violating all these core principles of the UN.
Which ones were, like, specifically?
Well, he mentions things like sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Right. The idea that every country has a right to exist and control its own destiny.
Exactly. And he's saying that Russia is basically trampling all over those rights.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it gets even more powerful because he brings in his own personal experiences.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know, he talks about how he grew up as the son of Guyanese immigrants.
Uh-huh.
And he draws a direct line between the imperialism of the past and what Russia is doing right now.
Oh, wow. So he's saying that Russia is acting like an imperial power.
Exactly. And there's this one line in his speech that really stood out to me.
What is it?
He says, "Imperialism, I know it when I see it, and I will call it out for what it is."
Yeah. Wow. That's a pretty powerful statement.
It is, and it really shows you how seriously he's taking this.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't stop there.
What else does he say?
Well, he goes on to talk about the potential consequences if Russia's allowed to get away with this.
Oh, that's a scary thought.
He paints this picture of a domino effect.
Domino effect. How so?
Well, he argues that if Russia succeeds in Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
then other countries might be tempted to do the same thing.
Like who?
Well, he specifically mentions Maduro in Venezuela,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
who has had his eye on Guyana for years now.
Right.
And Lammy is basically saying that if Russia sets this precedent,
Yeah.
then Maduro might feel emboldened to make his own move on Guyana.
Oh, wow. So suddenly it's not just about Ukraine anymore.
No, it's about the potential for conflict to erupt all over the world.
And he specifically mentions Guyana.
Yeah, I think that's really significant because Guyana has worked so hard to establish democracy and the rule of law.
Right.
And now they're facing this threat just because a bigger neighbor decides they want what they have.
Yeah. That's scary to think about.
It really is, and it brings home the importance of international cooperation. You know, we need to stand up to bullies no matter how powerful they seem.
So what does he say we should do?
Well, throughout the speech, he keeps emphasizing the UK's commitment to the UN Charter.
Yeah.
You know, those basic principles of respecting other countries' borders and working together to solve problems.
Yeah. Those are pretty important.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
she's saying that we need to uphold those principles.
So it's not just talk. He's advocating for action.
Exactly. And he ends his speech with this really powerful message of support for Ukraine.
What's that?
He says, Slava Ukraini.
Wow. That's pretty moving.
It is, and it shows you where his heart is.
But he's also challenging the rest of the world, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. He's basically saying if we want to live in a world governed by law, not
Mhm.
by brute force, then we can't just sit back and watch while the rules are being broken.
Yeah. That's a pretty clear message.
It is. So what do you think? I mean, what's your takeaway from all of this?
Well, I think Lammy's speech is a real wake-up call. He's forcing us to ask some hard questions about the future of international relations.
What kind of questions?
Well, what happens if this becomes the new normal?
If powerful countries can just seize what they want,
Exactly what happens to smaller nations?
what happens to the whole idea of international cooperation?
Yeah, it's a pretty chilling thought.
It is, and it's something we all need to be thinking about.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a pretty intense deep dive,
It has.
but it's been really important, I think,
Yeah.
to understand what's at stake here.
And what's going on in the world.
Exactly. So keep digging into these sources.
Yeah.
Keep asking those hard questions.
Keep learning.
And remember, this isn't just about what's happening on the other side of the world.
Right.
This is about the future we're all creating.
Absolutely well said.
So until next time,
Happy diving.
keep on diving.
See you later.
See you jiving.
See ya, girl.